make your life magnificent. Life is a magnificent adventure. In this transitory earthly existence, which is man's life drama, there have been given to him all the elements with which he may make of his life a resplendent and glorious pageant. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exit and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. So too your life is a play, and it should have in it all the elements that go to make up a well-rounded drama. There should be characters, purpose and plot, suspense and uncertainty, romance and beauty, some tears, but also much happiness. All lives reflect these elements of a great drama, but your individual life is much more extensive than that offered on the limited confines of a stage. Beyond the proscenium arch of your earthly stage is the master stage director, the creator, giving you the cues, arranging the scenes, and directing the cast of characters which make up your personal drama. And what is the title of this play in which you are the star? Is it The Life Magnificent, or The Dismal Life? Are the characters peopling your life play idealistic, beautiful, charming, and loving? Or have you filled this play with cheap melodrama, tawdry situations, common and vulgar characters? You and you alone may determine what shall take place in this drama of your life. You are also the playwright, devising the plot, writing the dialogue, and choosing the setting. Man is not a victim of circumstances, as many think. He can choose the events that make up his destiny. You have it within your power to fill your consciousness with any emotion, thought, or experience that you consciously choose. You can elevate your mind to the lofty mountain peaks of life, or you have the power to allow it to stagnate in the lowly shadow-filled swamps. The choice remains with you as to which type of life you are to choose. If you are one of that myriad throng who feel the transcendental urge of some inner power inspiring you to rise triumphantly over life's limitations, if you feel the soul urge of love trying to express itself in your thoughts, words, and acts, if you experience a flaming universality within your heart for all humanity, you are being prompted by the divine force within you to a finding of the magnificent life. These subtle soul promptings are trying to lead you onward towards the spiritual light. Since prehistoric times, man has felt this divine intelligence, which caused him to leave the dark caves of his lowly animalism. It was this divine spark which first caused man to see in the trees and stones of earth the material with which to build homes and experience the more abundant life. When man began to obey these subtle impulses to harness the forces of the universe, he subdued the earth and had dominion over the land, sea, and air. It was then that man experienced the full flowering of divinity. He then discovered the magnificent life, a life compounded of tenderness and love, beauty and sacrifice, loyalty and courage, joy and tranquility, purposefulness and endeavor. In this upward struggle from the primordial ooze of life, man has often become confused and discouraged. Many times he has strayed from the divine promptings within. He has become entangled with the tools from which he forged his own salvation. His industry has become perverted into an enslaving, mechanistic force, which destroys him. His purposefulness often becomes a monstrous materialistic intent, which swallows the beauty and tenderness it was trying to create. His creation of palaces and bridges, airplanes and television, guns and bombs, at times dimmed the splendor of his divine origin, and temporarily threw it into oblivion. This decline into limbo has always been temporary, however, for always this resplendent force, the magnificence inherent in man, asserts itself and reveals its permanence in human experience. Man is still trying to find the great experience, the perfect adventure, the purpose of living. This search is bound up in all his thoughts, emotions, and acts. He is still trying to pierce the mystic veil of the future, to fathom the secrets of the universe. And this inspiration, this ever-recurring dynamic force, leads him to more and more idealistic concepts of life. There is a magnificence and opulence about life. It often lies undetected and awaits your joyous discovery in the very environment in which you exist. If your perspective is unlimited, if your mind is attuned to the fine inner promptings of the soul, you suddenly see with vision other than the physical eye the broader vistas of life, and create the type of life you seek with whatever situations you find at hand. What then is this magnificent life for which man eternally searches? How may you find it? Is it a mystical experience alone, revealing its wonders only to the eyes of the few initiates. No true comprehension of life and its ultimate meaning can exist until we investigate all phases of human experience. Man is not a unicellular organism, made up only of body, nor is he merely mind without body or soul. Man is, rather, a triplicity of mind, body, and soul. These three entities, separate yet still united, furnish man with external experiences, emotional responses, and inner promptings of divinity, which must all be encompassed and fully comprehended if man is to live a balanced and harmonious life. This trinity of experience reveals itself in the natural course of existence, if we are but aware of it. It comes upon us in various forms, in isolated fragments, from strange experiences and sequestered incidents. Most of us expect the magnificent life to exist in one outstanding experience. Does it? It cannot, it must not. That one single experience in which we expect to find completion may be distorted and may not fit into the ultimate pattern of your existence. It may be wrong, it may be limited, and lack elements which make it complete. Do not expect then to find this transcendent and sublime experience in one single situation, or you may be doomed to bitter disappointment. In searching for this magnificent life, know that there is no one single outstanding experience furnished by your marriage, family, friends, business associates, fame, or fortune, which is the one outstanding experience for which you search. They are only contributing causes to the final effect which you are trying to create in your life. Your life experience must go further than the solitary, isolated incident, if you are to enjoy the fruits of your labor and find the destiny for which you were created. Pope aptly expresses it when he says, "All are but parts of one stupendous whole, whose body nature is, and God the soul." So too, you are a part of the stupendous life experience, and each incident is another facet in the universal diamond. You may be doomed to bitter disappointment if you think you are unhappy because of the lack of some one thing in your life. You may feel that you are miserable because you do not possess beauty of face or body, financial security, love, happiness, or social prominence. These may become the causes which threaten to unseat your reason and bring disquietude to your soul. You may become temporarily unhappy because of those universal cataclysms of depression, chaos, and war, which often threaten the very existence of civilization itself. But when you learn that no one situation, person, or experience has the key to your ultimate destiny, you will turn to the infinite intelligence within and find there the comfort, security, peace, and happiness which you seek. Then there is the group of misfits in life who expect to find the ultimate in the building of fame or fortune. Many would barter their souls for a crown, forgetting that too often a crown bears heavily on the brow and brings no peace of mind. Those who have built earthly fame and glory find that it too is a fleeting experience and cannot survive the eroding effects of time. The sacrifice in health, privacy, and peace is often too great a price to pay for such illusory and perishable glory. It is a good sign to have a normal interest in achieving success. Success cannot always be measured in terms of money and fame. The man or woman who lives in comparative obscurity may be just as much of a success and just as happy or happier than the big business success. Many times the so-called failures of life are but following the natural bent of their inner natures and seeking that expression of their talents which fulfills their ambitions perfectly. The measure of success, then, that can be the magnificent life, is that degree of happiness a man finds in his work and his usefulness to the world. The magnificent life is something that you must create with the materials you now have at hand. What these materials are and how you may use them to fashion from the invisible stuff of life the beauty, love, peace, joy, and happiness you desire, we will now explore. Man creates his destiny through the power of his mind. His mind interprets external experiences through his feelings or emotions. External forces exert a very powerful influence over man, but internal emotional experiences are undoubtedly greater in shaping the magnificent life. As man is a creature of feelings, and as feelings are translated into words and acts, his external life must inevitably reflect these inner states of consciousness. Man's entire reflex action is inevitably motivated by these inner urges, promptings, and even conflicts. If these inner compulsions are base and lowly, then they must externalize themselves in conduct which is base and lowly. If they are high and noble, then they too must reflect in man's actions and shape his environment. These emotional states or feelings that motivate and condition man are vital. We shall now study these inner drives and see their effect on man's destiny. 1. The sensual feelings in man. Because man is a physical being, science places him in the same classification as an animal. It is true that man possesses animal functions, physical appetites, and even tendencies to lustful living. Is man compounded of these physical appetites and passions alone? They are the sensual feelings in man, and they are transmitted through his 5 senses. These sensual feelings determine his physical reactions and his relationship to the world in general. Base sensuality exists only when man corrupts the finer instincts and perverts his natural physical functions. Man must eat and drink, propagate and raise his young, but these animal acts or functions need not degenerate into animalistic acts of gluttony and lustful sensation alone. They may be made rich experiences which contribute much to happy, balanced living. Through the sensual feelings, man may know love and tenderness for his mate. This elevates the sensual animal passions to the highest and most sacred province of human experience, in which love is kindled in the human heart. This creative force of love, when elevated to the social spheres, becomes universal in scope and welds all humanity into one great brotherhood of love. As love develops in the human consciousness, man begins to become aware of the divinity within. It is then that intelligence truly awakens and gives rise to 2. The intellectual feelings in man. When reason begins, animalism ceases to exist. Man then branches off from the limited physical functions of the animal and adds a mental dimension to living. His experiences in the external world are then interpreted by his mind. His relationship with the world is investigated and understood. He advances in the arts and literature. Invention and industry become more complex. Ambition is awakened and leads first to the creation of necessities, then broadens into the development of comforts and luxuries. With these advances in intellection comes a new and keener appreciation of life. Knowledge increases, and man uses for the first time the various forces which he formerly only tentatively explored. Finally, man's cultural growth is assured, his moral and ethical self awakens, and he assumes the responsibilities of the new world which his intellect has created. Then, too, come the philosophical concepts of life, the speculative theories, conquest of languages, interchange of conversation, and all those intellectual pursuits which give added richness and deeper significance to human experience. From this intellectual experience, man evolves higher and higher in the universal scheme. There is a greater refinement of manners and methods, a spiritualization of sensations and emotions, an elimination of bestiality, and a greater desire for peace and contentment. It is then that man attains the highest apex of creative thinking. The workings of the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious minds are correlated, and the intellectual products of great minds are released to the world. Then are born the powers of such giant intellects as Galileo, Socrates, Shakespeare, Michelangelo, Milton, Newton, Einstein, Beethoven, Lincoln, Freud, Madame Curie, and others who have left humanity richer because of their intellectual outpourings. Through such intellectual processes, civilization is given added impetus. A spiritually progressive evolutionary force is set into motion, which is capable of changing the entire face of the universe. The purpose of our mortal existence is intimately bound up with this dynamic intellectual force which we release to the world. Happiness is always in direct proportion to the intellectual value of each to the universe. This does not imply that those who are not intellectual cannot be happy, but if they expand to their fullest capacity and contribute the products of their intellects, no matter how seemingly limited, they attain benefits which are commensurate with their usefulness to the world. As man's mental evolution logically continues upward in the intellectual realm, we find that pure, cold intellect, scientific logic, processes of reason and rationalization alone do not give to life that sublime magnificence which is the purpose of living. Intellect is but the inner force which fans the spark of life into a roaring flame, and which combusts in the human heart and consciousness as our next upward step, the growth of 3. The sentimental feelings in man. Sentiment is purely a mental attitude, thought or judgment permeated or prompted by feeling. It is an emotional experience of tender susceptibilities. When our feelings or emotions are refined, they can be said to enter the realm of sentiment. Sentiment melts the heart and creates between human beings that fine feeling, which makes of even ordinary experiences magnificent adventures. It colors existence with beauty, gives purpose and meaning to life's various events. Persons who do not respond to affection or who have no sentiment are emotionally dead. They are unappreciative of the finer emotions and see in life none of the delicate shades of meaning which are revealed to those in whom sentiment flowers. The average harsh and realistic concept of life leads to a killing of the natural sentiment, which tries to express itself in the human heart. When sentimental feelings are lacking, there is a brusqueness in human conduct, which often shatters the sensitive, sentimental soul. Refinement of manners and responsiveness to others is indicative of the evolving of sentiment in the human soul. Do not be ashamed to show your feelings when they are sentimental and beautiful. Let tender sentiments be aroused often, and let them carry you onto exalted and beautiful realms. Let music inspire in your soul a new awareness and a sense of joy. The beauty within you is crying aloud for recognition and wishes to be released to the world. Sentimental expression will cause you to color your words and acts with iridescence and splendor, which cannot help but beautify all you touch, and which will alleviate the suffering and sordidness of the world. It will help to inspire beautiful dreams in those who are hopelessly lost in the quagmire of life. As man progresses in this evolutionary upward path, he begins to be more and more aware of his environment, his body and his intellect. He develops an upward soul surging which is capable of sweeping him onto the Elysian heights. Under this compelling drive of emotions, man begins to see beauty in all things. It is then that man's struggling soul breaks through its restraining physical bonds and bursts forth in all the flaming incandescence of divinity. Then it is that this blossoming sentiment of the human soul gives rise to 4. The aesthetic feelings in man. The aesthetic feelings add richness and joy to an otherwise drab and ugly existence. The aesthetic feelings may be developed by man, and with them he may mold or create from the materials at hand the beauty and joy which he seeks. The aesthetic feelings express themselves in the quality of your environment. Is it ugly and barren? If so, it will offend and stifle this newly awakened consciousness within your soul. The environment must be changed to conform to your inner vision and to appeal to your evolved senses. You will not be able to tolerate ugliness in your environment when these feelings of beauty and tenderness are fully aroused in your soul. The means for deliverance from squalor and barrenness exist within your own mind. You need not live in any atmosphere that is ugly and which reflects dismal poverty. You may beautify your environment with the labor of your own hands. Many have woven rugs of bright-colored rags to cover barren floors, clipped pictures from magazines to adorn humble walls, and fashioned gay drapes from the flimsiest of materials to bedeck the windows that might look out on the ugly evidences of man's unfortunate poverty. There is no premium on cleanliness and orderliness, other than a willingness to spend a little time in such pursuits. The sole need for outer radiance expresses itself in the desire to adorn the temple of the living God in beauty also. The clothing, then, selected with care and concern for color, regardless of the inability to purchase expensive clothing, is of vital concern in developing the aesthetic feelings. Inexpensive clothing can be imbued with an aristocracy of soul, a dignity of bearing and a radiant acquiescence, which weaves into their fabric a gentility and beauty that gives them new value. The aesthetic feelings of man truly soar to unlimited spheres when man applies them to the human relationships of life. They express themselves in courtesy, kindness, consideration, and the positive, encouraging words of beauty, which kindle inspiration in the souls of others. Man attains new dignity, approaching that of divinity itself, when he can rise to lofty heights the feelings and emotions of others, when he can inspire others with high ideals, humanitarian principles, and brotherly love. No more noble purpose can be discovered in living than to bring the aesthetic feelings into such universal or cosmic relationship. As we deal with the aesthetic feelings in man, we become more and more concerned with man's conduct toward one another. We begin to search for purpose and intent, to guard against those human and subhuman tendencies of the unevolved soul. It is then that we find the awakening of 5. The ethical feelings in man. The study of ethics is principally concerned with morality. It is the science of the ideal human character. It consists in not only seeking to explore right methods of conduct towards others, but in creating for others a state of happiness and completion. Everything that tends toward that goal is ethical. On the other hand, that which tends to degrade, abuse, pervert, or destroy the ideals, dreams, or morals of others becomes unethical. That which injures others destroys you also. The ethical conduct then is on a very high plane. It gives unselfishly of its fruits to rich or poor. Inevitably, good moral conduct brings its own rewards, whereas conversely bad moral conduct produces sterility of the soul and engenders human misery. To lie, cheat, and betray others is unethical. This type of conduct is a cause that must produce a like effect. It is a fundamental truth that we attract that which we give out. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you is not only a maxim, which is true, but becomes a universal law, which cannot be violated without serious consequences. When man becomes conscious of these spiritual laws and judges his conduct by these universal rules, he awakens within himself a new consciousness which leads to 6. The spiritual feelings in man. Since time immemorial, man has asked, "Why do I exist? Where am I going? From whence do I issue?" These are intangibles, which cannot be answered simply through a casual physical or material explanation. Such problems correctly repose in the invisible or spiritual realms of life. Man exists only because he is aware. He says, "I think, therefore I am." New consciousness awakens as his thinking is elevated. He thinks further, "I am what?" And some deep inner voice answers, "I am divine." This deep-seated conviction then becomes a state of awareness, a new consciousness. It is true because man is aware of it. For him it is a simple, indisputable fact, which requires no scientific explanation or proof. His belief is based on blind faith. His thinking is thus broadened to include a creator, a God from whom he came, and in whose image man is created. As Voltaire once said, even if there were no God, it would have been necessary for man to have invented him. The human need for recognizing a supreme power, a creative intelligence, is so great that unerringly even primitive minds create their own idea of a God which they may worship. This deep instinctive awareness of some great creative force is so unmistakably a part of human experience that it cannot be ignored by intelligent men and women. Spiritual feelings more definitely crystallize through man's tender emotions. Love generates a new awareness in man. Love is the ultimate spiritual expression of the human race. It is the creative function of life, and is symbolical of the generous love poured out by the Creator when he formed the universe for his children. Thus, it is that all through life, woven in the warp and woof of destiny, is the golden thread of love. There are many different types of love. Love of man for woman, love of family, love of friends, love of community, love of country, and finally, as the human ego evolves higher and higher, cosmic or universal love. Love of self is only the animal expression of love. When self-love is submerged in that final self-abnegation of love for others, the selfish individual ultimately merges with the great cosmic stream of radiant love which envelopes the universe and which issues from the divine creative fount. It is then that the true spiritual feelings awaken in man. To fully awaken these spiritual feelings, then, concentrate occasionally on the great mystery of your life. Get away from the maddening throng. Stop feeling that your life revolves entirely around people and their physical and material problems. Enter the inner citadel of the soul, and there discover the infinite riches of spiritual wisdom. An amazing revelation awaits you in this inner chamber of the mind. Intuition will proclaim newer and greater mysteries of life. Astounding vistas open, which too often lie undiscovered on the threshold of your conscious mind, unobserved and undetected by your five senses. There too, in that cathedral of the soul, the deep, responsive, sympathetic spiritual chord which ties you to your Creator, pulsates with new emotion and brings you a revitalizing, refreshing stream of life energy, which gives you new purpose and makes of life a truly magnificent adventure.